Welcome to the Non Sports Podcast, episode 22, the home of sports talk for everyone. I'm David.
I'm Jason.
Welcome aboard. Before we get started here, we just want to give another shout out to Matt and Brian of the Harrisburg Senators fan club. They were a blast to have on last episode.
They were awesome. A lot of the feedback I got is that for people who aren't from the area who listen, they got to learn a lot about the team itself and the history behind it. And then on top, learned about the history of the fan club. So definitely was a good overall episode based on feedback we got.
Oh yeah. Well, just with everything that people just don't realize with minor league baseball, with, that some players need a host family.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that because they're thinking, oh, they're just going to go up to the pros and, up to, MLB and make that money. They already have the money. But
yeah, not everyone's a bonus baby. And based on our recent experience at a Senators game, we were sitting next to the family and the host family of a player. So
yeah, we were. Wasn't the player from Louisiana?
Yes, his family flew up from Louisiana.
So so it's not like if every player has that, that financial aspect. Some players got to have that family, and and the host family was right there next to to us.
That was really cool, and you can't. The freaking very friendly family talked to us and your brother and your uncle the entire time.
Oh yeah, they were really they were a blast to talk to too. Being new to the area and being their son. Well, their son was right in front of us.
Right.
He played left field, so it was like right in front of us there.
Yeah, Cole Freeman. That's who.
Yep, Cole Freeman.
Yep, Louisiana State. Overall pick number 133 for the Nationals in 2017. Good for him.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it's just with the minor leagues, some people just don't realize the whole process behind it.
Right.
So it looks like everybody got an education on everything: the Senators, the fan club, and what it takes for actual, not just Senators players, but minor league baseball in general.
Yeah, and Matt and Brian were a lot of fun to talk to. Even though it was a lot of information, it was fun, and that's the most important thing to me in doing this is making sure that if someone's learning something, they're having fun too. So yeah, big shout out to Matt and Brian from the Senators fan club. They were awesome guests, and I hope we can have them on again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. And guys, if you're watching us, thank you for the hats.
Yes, thank you very much. They are excellent hats.
Yes. So on that note, let's get into the first period. So the MLB playoff, NBA playoffs, and the updates for that. The bracket
is behind me.
Yes, I think that's the updated one too. I know the Sixers just won tonight on June 11th, so they're up in the series right now, 2-1. Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Brooklyn's up 2-1. Utah and the LA Clippers. Utah has that series right now 2-0, and Phoenix is over Denver right now 2-0 in that series. So it looks like we got two series for potential sweeps. Nobody likes a sweep.
They don't like it if it's not their team.
Yeah, if it is your team, then you really do like it. But the Sixers just won their game tonight to take that 2-1. But yeah, that's the update for the playoff bracket. And then going into the second part of this, it's amazing how many teams, since we're talking about playoffs here, how many teams have not won a championship. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's quite a long list. I believe it's 11 teams that are
from what I saw
were in the playoffs since it began for 2021. 11 of those teams have been without a championship.
And some have been to it quite a few times and have been able to bring it home.
So as far as the ones that have never reached the finals, so the Charlotte Hornets have been around for 32 seasons, both as the Hornets and as the Bobcats. Combined them for the sake of the discussion, and they've had 10 playoff appearances in the 32 seasons. They've never made the finals even.
Well, look at the Denver Nuggets, 44 seasons, over just over half of their existence. They've been in the playoffs.
They've been in the playoffs, yeah,
but never been able to take it. Then you got the LA Clippers at 36 with 12 playoff appearances.
Unfortunately for the Clippers, they're the second team in LA. It's not like New York with baseball where you have diehard Mets fans and you have diehard Yankees fans. The Clippers for a long time have been like the forgotten team.
The team of misfits. They're the misfit toys.
But I see, based on my background, they've already made it to the next round. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when you have teams that don't make the playoffs or aren't known to a lot of people, because you think LA, you think Lakers, right off the bat.
Well, heck, the next team on the list here is the Memphis Grizzlies. I can't believe, and this tells you how long it's been since I regularly watched basketball, that they've been in Memphis for 19 seasons. To me, like, it seems like they just recently became the Memphis Grizzlies and they were in Vancouver for all that time.
Yeah, it's been a while since I watched basketball too. I mean, tonight was the first time I watched it in a while, probably just because the 76ers were on. But, yeah, well, according to the playoffs, though, the LA Lakers got knocked out on their series by Phoenix, 4-2. So they're
another
out.
Team we'll be getting to a little bit here. But yeah, the Grizzlies, 19 seasons, 10 playoff appearances. That's not actually for 19 seasons. I don't think that's a bad percentage of making the playoffs.
It's a bad percentage.
They have for a young team. That's a pretty good amount of playoff appearances.
Oh yeah, I mean, you only missed 9 seasons out of 19. I mean, that's that means that it's growing, it's building. You're consistently making the playoffs, and eventually,
it'll happen.
You hope, anyways. So, but yeah, I mean, that's not bad at all.
Timberwolves, 31 seasons, only 9 playoff appearances. You know what blew my mind about this? I thought the Timberwolves were a much older franchise, which tells you like how out of it I am that they've only been around for like 31 seasons. I'm like, no, I gotta look this up and double check.
They've been around longer too. Think about it, but 9 playoff appearances out of 31.
The Timberwolves were not always a good team.
No.
And then the New Orleans Pelicans, they've only been around for 18 seasons, and they've only had 7 playoff appearances. Just
under half.
Now, going back now, these are teams that have made it to the finals, but have unfortunately never won it. The aforementioned Phoenix Suns, they've been around for 52 seasons, which blew my mind.
They've been around for a while.
They've had 29 playoff appearances, 2 trips to the finals, 1 in 76, 1 in 93. And this is going to be repeated for at least the Suns in the next one. Had they not gone against the Bulls, against the Bulls, they might have actually won a playoff in 93 had it been a different team. Because they had Barkley, they had Dan Marley, they were a great team, but they went against the Bulls.
Yeah, the Bulls of the 90s were definitely a terror.
The Bulls of the 90s, apparently the greatest sports franchise due to Matt's tournaments.
Oh yeah?
That is the whole reason the Bulls won were because of the 90s. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, the Bulls of the 90s definitely overtook, and the Suns really didn't have a chance at that point.
It's a shame that they couldn't repeat it back the next year.
Well, some franchises always, I mean, and this goes for any sport, it's always hard to get back there the following season, whether you're, the champion and trying to defend it, it's always hard to get back. I mean, I know a lot of times even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So look at the NHL right now. Tampa Bay, they're calling it the semis. I still call it the conference finals. It's the way they're doing it this year. I just kind of
right.
But they're defending champions and they're in the Final Four. So it's it's not easy.
Well, and speaking of back-to-back trips to the playoffs and finals, next up is the Utah Jazz. Now they've been a team for 46 total seasons, and that's including when they were the New Orleans Jazz, which is a name that makes a hell of a lot more sense than the Utah Jazz. Salt Lake's not exactly known for their jazz.
No, not by far. By far.
They've had 29 playoff appearances. They've had 2 trips to the finals in 97-98, back-to-back against the Bulls.
Once again.
God, those games for those 2 series are some of the best basketball games I've ever watched. Because it was graceful, and it was athletic, and it was hard hitting, it was physical. It was everything to me that basketball game should be, when you have Karl Malone and Rodman fouling the crap out of each other just to, prove themselves to each other. You have Jordan being Jordan, Pippen being Pippen, John Stockton looking like the accountant, just throwing down shots left and right. I mean, those were 2 really great teams, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen for Stockton and Malone, and they had great careers, but they just never got that finals victory.
It's like some of the greatest players just in any sport, they, make it to the Hall of Fame, but they just cannot get that ring.
You know what? You know who I would probably compare Malone to? Like, if I was going to compare him to someone in another sport, I'd probably say Marino.
I was just thinking that same thing. Dan Marino had a great career. And
one of the all-time greats, one of the best, and just never got the big one.
Just could never get that ring. That ring always eluded him. And that's a lot of players. That's a lot of Hall of Famers that cannot get that ring.
Right.
And a lot of times that's, I wonder if these players who made it to the finals, retire, make it to the Hall of Fame, just sit there and wonder about that ring, or if they're just gonna what it is, what it is.
I'd like to think at some point they're just at a place in life where it doesn't matter. They at least got there, because there's a lot of great players who've never even got there. I highly recommend to anyone who hasn't watched it on Netflix, watch The Last Dance. One, it was a great sports documentary, but especially when they talk about those series against the Jazz and those guys from the Bulls, they don't hold back. They talk about those guys with a lot of respect, and then you get to see all the really great clips from those games. It's worth going out of your way to sit and watch.
Yeah, it is a good series. The games were a good series, but the Netflix show is really good.
Yeah, it was excellent.
I actually
still have it on my DVR from when it aired on ESPN. So it was that good. I kept it.
Yeah, you go
over a year now.
You go to Netflix and it's commercial free.
Yeah, rewind, man, or fast forward.
Be kind, rewind.
What's that?
Right? How many people don't know what that is?
Well, based on our demographics, I think everyone who listens knows what that is.
True, but you get to
we're in a very older millennial demographic here as far as our listeners.
Sometimes you say that and people are like, what?
Very much our peers.
Oh, you say VHS and people are wondering what it is.
I still have all my VHS tapes.
I actually found a vinyl record player today.
I want to get
still works.
Because they make Bluetooth ones now.
It's still this is old school, like discolored. Right. But yeah,
Does it have
that's
wood
up.
paneling?
I don't think it has the wood paneling.
Everything was better back then with wood paneling. Didn't you know that?
Ants. Anyways.
Another team on the list that was back to back to the finals were the Brooklyn Nets. At the time, they were the New Jersey Nets. 44 total seasons, 21 playoff appearances, 2 trips to the finals, 02 and 03. This was at about the time I stopped getting into basketball, so I don't remember this, unfortunately. And I know Brandon Stevenson, who is a listener and is a big NBA guy, will kill me. Good dude, though. Yeah, Brooklyn has, as a team, just as an outside observer, casual viewer at best, since moving to Brooklyn, that team just seems reinvigorated. Because I think they have ownership that really cares. And that translates, that translates into on-court magic. And great segue. The next
I was gonna say, did you try that?
Nope, that was totally off the cuff. Next one is the Orlando Magic, 30 seasons, 16 playoff appearances, 2 trips to the finals, 95 and 09. And I do remember in 09, it was like they were like the team to beat in 09. Like it was expected they were going to win it in 09. Like if it was going to happen, it was that year, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah,
95 is the more shocking one, I think, to me, because that was when they had Shaq, and that's when they were hot. Just wasn't meant to be, though.
I mean, a lot of times, you could be picked to win the whole thing. You could be, picked you could have a whole team of all-stars, but you just have that Cinderella team that can just come out and just spoil that whole thing.
Well, I'm a big proponent that you don't need, in any sport, you don't need a team of all-stars. You need a team that can play together.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm just saying, like, a lot of teams try to get those all-stars. They try to get that to have that, and
a lot of sports writers like teams with all-stars.
Well,
drives me crazy.
A lot of time. I mean, look at the 1980 USA team. They're just a bunch of college kids when they beat the Russians in ice hockey.
Right.
No NHL players there.
No, not at all.
But looking through this list, for some reason I swore, and it was probably because you were saying like they were destined to win it that year, that they won at least one, but.
And I think that goes back to 09 and like ESPN. I remember watching SportsCenter and like the ESPN analysts were high on them in 09. And I really think based on my memory, like that was the year they were like predicted to win it by playoff time, but it just didn't happen. They lost to a better team. Now this one was the one based on memory I thought at least had one, and I was clearly wrong, was the Indiana Pacers. 44 seasons, 27 playoff appearances, 1 trip to the finals in 2000.
Yeah, I thought they would. I don't know.
That Reggie Miller era, I thought for sure they had won one with Reggie Miller because he was a tremendous basketball player.
It's just, like I said, some of these teams you thought that you'd expect them to have at least one just because of who they've had. But no, it's crazy though. They have all these players that are well named and everything else, and it's just you just think, and nope, they don't have any.
What I like about the Pacers, and it's more what I like about Larry Bird. I love that Larry Bird is so involved with the Pacers. He didn't play for them, but it's his hometown team because he's from Indiana. I love that he's so involved with that franchise and he's coached for them. I think he's a part owner of them. It speaks highly to how much he cares about where he came from.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you care that much and you had the money, you could definitely be a part of any sports franchise with that. But the fact that, like you said, he's that much into the team that he really wants them to succeed, despite he never played for them. But like you said, it's his hometown.
Yeah. And that's why, like, with people I know who are Phillies fans, they get upset that Utley does stuff with the Dodgers. And I always point out, look, I love Chase Utley, one of my all-time favorite Phillies, but he's from Los Angeles. He grew up a Dodgers fan. That's his team.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to do things with a team that you love the most, grew up with.
Right.
I mean, like you said, I love Chase Utley too for what he did in Philly. But if he has an opportunity to be within an organization that he grew up loving, why not?
Exactly.
That's who he grew up with. I mean, that's always, okay, he was a Philly for so many years. He won a World Series with them, but that's his hometown. That's his home.
Just like, Michael Jordan, he owns 97% of the Hornets. He's from that area.
Yeah, I mean, and he was a Bull majority of his career.
Yeah, give or take some time.
I said majority
at the end that no one wants to talk about.
He just did he just farmed it.
But I mean, another guy, he cares very much about the sport, just like Bird, but he cares very much about the sport in his local area.
And it shows, I mean, because he's always involved.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's just crazy on how many teams you thought had a title, but no, nothing there.
Right.
So it's just one of those things to where it's like, wow.
Yeah, that blew me away. Some of the, and that just goes back to me being a young kid and misremembering things or just forgetting over time.
Yeah, we are old. But, I mean, look at the Phoenix Suns. I mean, 52 seasons, not one. And you would think, like you said, they would at least have something.
Again, same thing with the Jazz. Had either of those teams not gone against the Bulls with Jordan in the 90s, they probably would have won at least one championship. Probably.
But that Chicago the Chicago era.
Yeah, those 2 3-peats, Dan, they were something.
So on that note, that'd be the end of period 1. We'll be right back after a short break.
What's up? My name is Matt Durlin, and I'm here to tell you about the 2 podcasts that I host on the Club Kayfabe Creative Communities, CKCC Radio. The first is called By the Numbers, where I interview wrestlers whose matches I have refereed in my nearly 20-year independent professional wrestling career. Tune in and hear the stories of the matches and the stories behind the matches themselves. My other show is called The A Show, co-hosted by Chris Decker. Each episode, Chris and I are joined by 1 or 2 special guests, and together we hold a mock draft based on a specific year and wrestling promotion, and then build cards based on our drafted rosters. You, the listener, decide who has the best card by voting on our Twitter poll each episode. You can hear By the Numbers and The A Show Mondays at 9 a.m., alternating weeks on CKCC Radio, wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, welcome back to the second period here. Second period is the NHL playoff brackets, all the updates for them. So right now in the semifinals, which I still consider the conference finals here, it is Vegas and Montreal and Tampa and the New York Islanders. So normally you don't see Montreal or I should say a Canadian team this far into the playoffs, but kind of weird but it's kind of nice to see.
I have a question. When you say conference finals, are you talking about the Wales and the Campbell? Or are you talking about whatever it is now, what East and West?
I still consider it's they call it the semifinals is what they're calling it this year.
Right.
Because they're all playing within the divisions and all that. And in my opinion, it's still conference finals. Whether or not they're going to give a conference trophy is the question.
Well, the reason I asked that is because I always liked, looking back, I think being at the Wales and the Campbell was different than everyone else, and it stood out.
Oh, yeah.
And then by changing it to East and West now, everyone does that.
Yeah. But what I find strange is Montreal and Vegas. Vegas is normally considered the Western Conference. Montreal is considered Eastern Conference.
Right.
So the fact that them two are going together, I don't know. It's still mind-boggling.
Maybe
Like,
this will.
Who knows?
Oh, I think it'd be good to have a Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals this year.
I think the last time that happened was back in 2011, Boston and Vancouver.
Okay.
I think it was in Boston won it. But no, I mean, there's not that many Canadian teams in general. I mean, yes, they made a division of them, but
just for this year, though.
Yeah. Now, those series didn't start yet. I think those start Sunday.
Okay.
But there's only one sweep, and Montreal swept Winnipeg, which I thought Winnipeg was going to at least give them some
shot.
Yeah. But no game sevens.
Interesting.
Well, there's only 2 game sevens that happened so far this playoffs, and that's Toronto and Montreal, which Toronto choked again. Well, they were up 3-1 in the series.
That's right. The same week they lost. Well, we'll get to that in the third period.
But yeah, they were up 3-1 in the series, and they blew it. And then Vegas beat Minnesota in 7. What was really a shocker, though, I know everybody was picking, all the ESPN analysts were picking Colorado, and Vegas beat them in 6. That was kind of impressive.
Especially because they're a new team. They're still technically a new team.
Yeah, they're not that old yet. I mean, they're only, I think 2018 is when they came in. Right. And they went to the finals that year. They lost it, but they went. But no, I feel that it's going to be an interesting series, especially between Tampa Bay Lightning and the New York Islanders. I feel that series, being that Tampa is a defending champion right now, so who knows?
Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting series.
That's the fun of playoff hockey.
Playoff hockey can definitely take some time, especially those long overtime nights.
A lot of emotional hot ups and downs, a lot of roller coaster nights.
Oh, yeah. A lot of thinking you're going to need food to make it through those nights. And then turns out 5 seconds into one of the overtime periods, it's over. And you made all this food. How many times have we done that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So that should leads into a good segue into, like we did with the first period, NHL teams without rings, without Stanley Cups. So we have a list here of the Arizona Coyotes, who were once the Phoenix Coyotes. They made it to the playoffs, but never made it to the finals.
They're not exactly a storied franchise in the NHL, so this doesn't surprise me at all.
No. I mean, plus also, I think they were the Winnipeg Jets, the original Winnipeg Jets.
Right.
Because if I say Winnipeg Jets, everybody thinks the current team. I'm saying like the original ones.
You say Winnipeg Jets, I think of the original ones. Great jerseys, for the record.
Just because, I mean, they were just basic. They just had jets.
Yep.
And a jet underneath. That's it.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Right? And then the next one is the Buffalo Sabres. Now, they made it 2 trips to the finals, 75 and 99. Didn't win either. And actually, the 99 finals with them in Dallas, that's when they took away the crease rule, basically. Because Brett Hull's foot was in the crease when they scored in overtime. But they still counted it. Because they said he had control of the puck. Technically. I don't know. You know, the officials, the rules and all that, everything changes. There's so many gray areas to everything.
Well, that's the problem.
But the following year, there was a rule change.
Of course.
for that. But I think that was, I forget how many overtime. I know it was an overtime. I just cannot remember if it was 2 or 3. That one I can't remember because I remember watching it. Then you got the Columbus Blue Jackets. Never made it to the finals.
There's the Blue Jackets I still look at as a relatively young franchise. So a lot like the Coyotes, it doesn't surprise me.
No, but they're a growing team because they have been. They've been making the playoffs more and more. So it's not like they are a team that just like, what's a playoff?
Right.
You know, they're still a growing. They're still, like you said, a young team just trying to find their feet. Because you have how many teams right now that found their feet and still can't pull it off? You know,
I look at team age a lot like with baseball. You have these franchises that have been around for decades, and then you have franchises that have been around for like 2 decades, and they're still new.
You know, then you got teams like the Florida Panthers. They've been around a little bit.
They have.
You know, they've been around a good bit. 96, what they made to the finals, lost to Colorado. That was in triple overtime. I love the score though of Game 4, which of course Colorado swept 1-0 in triple overtime. You know,
that was a hard fought win. That was an earned victory.
Yeah, I remember watching it.
I know.
You know,
you do. I know you did.
Because Patrick Waugh and John Van Viesbroek.
Ooh, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Right? I actually have a jersey in one of my totes when he was a Flyer.
Does not surprise me. You could probably wear a different NHL jersey for an episode.
Probably. Well, I still have the Atlanta Thrashers one, their 3rd jersey.
That was a nice, but I liked that jersey. I liked the color scheme for that jersey.
You know, they haven't been around for a couple of years now because they moved back to Winnipeg. You know, they moved to Winnipeg.
The Jets went back to Winnipeg from Atlanta.
Yeah. So, you know, some of my jerseys I have
are obsolete.
Well, I have an Ottawa Senators 3rd jersey.
Oh, God, I don't remember that, but I have no doubt you do.
So, and I don't even think that's around. I don't think they use that one anymore because I think it's more, they tried, I think, to get like the Senator head to look outward. I think it was
I know which one you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I have that one.
Well, you have that, as we go off on a jersey tangent here, you have that Bork on ice jersey with the fight straps.
Yes, my Boston Bruins jersey.
Yes.
Yes, the authentic.
Bet Matt would like that.
Yeah, that one I have authentic. Well, that one I have authentic, but I do have a Ray Bork jersey, Colorado, for when he won the Cup in 2001. I got that one's a replica, but I got the jersey made up of him.
Yeah, I remember when you bought the stuff to get it made up.
So, yeah, I was shocked that I could find a Stanley Cup patch for that.
He was always a player you enjoyed watching, though. So, I mean, none of that surprises me at all.
Yeah, he was one of those players to where even though he was a defenseman, he's always busted his butt trying to do whatever is needed.
And see, that's like, even though you're a diehard Flyers fan, you had a player from another team that you really enjoyed watching. That's kind of how I always felt about McCutcheon. Even though he wasn't a Philly, I loved watching him play the game.
Well, him and Chris Pronger were, I know they're defensemen, but Chris Pronger, I mean, when he played for St. Louis, he was a force then. And as he progressed through his career, he became more of a force.
Right.
And then just, I love goaltenders just because of their helmets, really. Well, they're all unique.
And you played goalie.
Yeah, that too. I just wish I had the money to keep continuing that. Well, some of that gear is just...
It's a lot.
Too much for me. But the next on the list is the Minnesota Wild.
Okay, before we get into the whole playoff thing with them, going back to the jersey thing, I love their reverse retro.
That is nice.
I love that they went with the North Star colors for that.
Which I thought they had to, just because Minnesota North Stars were the original Minnesota team.
Right. And I think they need to keep those colors permanently.
It would be
Dallas
nice.
don't use them.
No?
And there's clearly a market amongst sports fans in general for those old school North Stars colors, just like there's people like me and you and Matt from the A Show who enjoy the Whalers logos and colors.
Oh, the Whalers. Wow, that's a throwback.
See, that's a team that if you get talking to certain types of sports fans, they know their stuff if they mention the Whalers. Or if you mention the Whalers and they react like you do.
Yeah, because the Whalers moved to Carolina then.
Yep.
They became the Carolina Hurricanes, which actually what's nice is the Hurricanes bring those jerseys back every once in a while.
Right.
So it's kind of cool they do that. So, yeah, that is neat they do. So the next one on the list is the Nashville Predators. They've been to the conference finals one time, and that was back in 2017.
Wow. 2017.
So yeah, that's when they lost to the Penguins, which on some controversial plays. Go figure, right?
You know what? Those Penguins teams from the 2010s they were forces to be reckoned with, though. Let's not act like they weren't loaded with talent.
I'm still not going to like them, but then next on the list is the Ottawa Senators, which I think the last time any Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup, I think was back in '93. I think that was Montreal won it back in '93. That's when like John LeClair, Eric Desjardins played for them. I know old names, right?
Very old names, yeah.
But yeah, I think it was back in '93 is when the last time a Canadian team won a Stanley Cup. Now there has been Canadian teams in the finals, like I said, Vancouver back in '11, but not since '93 has a Canadian team won. And they were in the finals back in '07, which I think was, once again, Penguins knocked them out. But, yeah, it's been a while since.
In '07, they beat the Penguins in the first round, the Devils in the conference semis.
Oh, right.
Sabres in the finals, and then they lost to the Ducks in the finals.
Right, because that was the year Chris Pronger won the Cup.
Yep.
I had a little brain lapse there.
So, right. That's why you keep me around.
Really? I
Maybe.
thought it was. That's right, because I remember now when because Pronger won the Cup that year, because he got traded from Edmonton to Anaheim. Just for that. And then next one's the San Jose Sharks. Some of these numbers we have on our little sheet here are wrong. Is that because we have 96 and they're not 96?
2016?
Yeah, I talked about mistypes.
It's all right. And that one was against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They beat the Kings in the first round, Predators in the semis, Blues in the conference finals, and then lost to the Penguins. And for a team that hasn't even been around a full 30 years, they've had quite a lot of playoff runs. 28 seasons, 21 times they've made the playoffs.
They definitely made it. I mean, I know a couple of years they won. I know the one year they won the President's Trophy and got knocked out in the first round.
Jeez.
Well, that's how it normally is. I mean, look at Washington. All those times they get knocked out. The years they won the President's Trophy. I know the one time the Ducks and the Devils, the Ducks had to go through the first two seeded teams.
Right.
I think they swept them too. The next one we were just talking about, Vancouver, 82, 94, and 11.
Yep.
Three times and couldn't bring it. I think in 94 they lost to the Rangers, and that's when they had Pavel Bure.
That is when they lost to the Rangers. 82 they lost to the Islanders, and then in 2011 they lost to the Bruins.
Mm-hmm. But I think, I know the game in 94 was definitely from what I understand, a good series. Because I really didn't start watching hockey, I think, till 95.
That would have been the Rangers when they had Messier and Gretzky.
No, Gretzky wasn't part of that.
He wasn't part of that run. I knew he was with the Rangers in the 90s.
Yeah, he wasn't part of that run. Because Gretzky only has his cups from Edmonton.
Okay.
But that's when they had Mike Richter.
Okay.
Brian Leach. So, yeah, it's let's talk about some old names there. But yeah, because I know the one play that everybody talks about with Pavel Bure and Mike Richter was the penalty shot. That during I think it was the finals. When he just came in, if I remember right, I was watching the documentary. He barely just got it with his toe.
Oh,
but he made the save. That's all that mattered.
That's all that matters. And then next up on the list are the Golden Knights,
which they're extremely young.
Literally made the playoffs in their first season.
Made the finals in their first season.
Yeah.
They made the finals in their first season and
beat the Kings, the Sharks, the Jets, and then lost it to the Caps.
Mm-hmm. And the Caps were in 5 because they won because the Knights won game 1, but then lost the next 4.
That was probably all they needed to wake themselves up and take it from them.
Oh yeah. Well, Ovechkin was hungry for it. That was the year that the Capitals finally beat the Penguins in the playoffs. Because every time the Caps and the Pens met, whoever won that series ended up going to the finals and winning it.
Right.
It just seems like how it was. Every time they did that. Then you have the Winnipeg Jets. I'm just saying in general with this one, the old and the new.
The old and okay. Well, that changes what information I have to look at.
Well, because even if it's the new or even it's the old, I don't think they've really done anything. I mean, they may have made the playoffs, but not
the old. The old Jets made the conference. No, hold on here.
If you look at
this
Winnipeg
information
Jets,
screwed up.
You look at Winnipeg Jets, you only get
semifinals. The old team did. They made it to the conference semifinals and lost twice. And that would have been 85 and 87, respectively. Here's a crazy fact. The original Winnipeg Jets, as far as the NHL were concerned, were in the NHL for 17 seasons. The current Winnipeg Jets have been in the NHL for 9 seasons.
Mm-hmm. 2011 is when they came in.
That's crazy to think about.
Because the Atlanta Thrashers were from 99 to 2011.
Right.
And that's so yeah, it's amazing how a franchise leaves and then comes back. So yeah, it's definitely wild when you see that. But yeah, it's amazing, like some of these teams, like how long they've been in the or how long they've been in the NHL. Some have been around for a while, still have not done anything. I mean, I know Vancouver's been around for a while because the one episode we did with those ugly jerseys they used to have.
The V of Doom. I love that.
Those were ugly jerseys. Those were ugly.
I love that. I think the Sabres and the Canucks probably are the most surprising on the list. Just based on age more than anything. Like the newer teams, the teams that have come out in the last 15, 20 years, not as surprising. But overall, I feel like there were less surprises on this one than the NBA one.
Yeah, I mean there are some less surprises, but the Florida Panthers, especially Vancouver. Hey, maybe one day they'll make it.
Maybe.
So, on that note, that'd be the end of period 2. We'll be right back after this short break.
Baseball fans, check out the Baseball Together podcast. Your hosts, Blackjack Brad and Kansas City Little Big Briggy Blue Eyes, present new episodes for the entire baseball family every Tuesday. Available on all your favorite podcast apps and YouTube. Come join our baseball family where we do baseball together.
All right, welcome back to the third period. Now, for the final results of the beer tournament, good old Ryan Fitzpatrick has won. And you picked that one.
I did.
I had Joe Thornton, and he lost.
Joe Thornton had a bad week that week.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did. Between the Maple Leafs just tanking in the playoffs and him losing the beer tournament, Toronto can't win a thing.
I'm sure he cares very deeply about the beer tournament. Man, it wasn't even close.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah,
it was 80-20.
What are we looking at? Ground beef here or what?
We are.
I mean, yeah, he got thumped. He didn't get beat. He got thumped.
And fun fact, so little inside baseball for you listeners. We had reached out on Twitter to a company that sells and makes beard products. You want to guess when they got back to me, David?
Right afterwards.
They got back to me Monday.
And when did you put in for it?
When we just wrapped up the MLB part of the tournament.
Oh, so not that long. Got it.
Because because they said their response to me that came Monday morning.
Sorry it took so long.
It said, "Hey, yeah, we're sorry we didn't respond to this right away. We just saw it. We'll gladly sponsor your tournament." And I'm like, "Well, guess what? Womp womp womp."
And the fact that you did it and the MLB was the first one.
Yep, right after we finished that one up, like before we talked about it on the next episode, I had reached out.
And the fact that just getting back to you.
Because how great would it have been to say, "Oh, this is the blank, blank, blank."
Yeah.
Best beard in pro sports tournament. But
that would have been neat to sit, to have just
not
to
be,
have the sponsor for it.
Maybe next year. Maybe
something we'll pick that we can actually. Oh, maybe what we should do is just reach out ahead of time if we know what's going on.
I didn't think about it, and I'm like, let's just call our shot and see what happens.
Dude, that was a great idea for it. I mean, that was a fantastic idea, but like you said, just never pulled.
Nope.
But hey, you won the beer tournament. Your pick won. Weren't surprised this week. Then again, we didn't expect these two players to be in the finals either.
No, I wasn't surprised by either one of those two. Again, the biggest surprise to me goes back to Harden.
Yeah. I
was assuming was going to be a lock, and that's what happens when you assume.
Pretty much. I mean, I did the same thing. I assumed the same thing as well. But hey, it was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I mean, we could announce, I guess, our next idea for a tournament. That's up to you.
Well, we still got to research that one too. Check out all the stuff we want.
Well, we got about 2 weeks.
Give or take.
There's another tournament coming ahead. We'll say that.
Give a little teaser.
There
you go. Now rolling into championships. we decided to do our favorite championship teams. Now, this is any sport. This is just your favorite championship team for any reason. Like, you just like the player on it. You like the way the team played. So what's your one?
Leading off. Okay. So I have two. The first one I went with, now you got to keep in mind, I was like 6 when this took place. And outside of any other sports team I liked, this was the first sports team I liked that won something. Because back then I liked the Eagles, because this was way before I played fantasy football and couldn't like a team. Eagles got close to this stuff, but never really made it. And the Phils were pretty awful. So I went with the 1990-1991 season Chicago Bulls. Jordan's first NBA Finals win. It was the first win of the original Bulls three-peat. And as far as I'm concerned, that picture of Jordan crying, hugging the trophy with his dad right beside him, holding him, that emotion captured in that picture, to me, without any words, explains what it feels like to succeed at that level.
Oh, you spent the whole time trying to get to that level. You made that level, and you won at that level. So yeah, that's definitely a heartwarming one. To
see a player like Jordan, just so emotionally drained, clutching this trophy, it speaks volumes. It speaks so much about his work ethic, what it meant to him,
his passion.
You can't deny what that means in that team. Not just that team for the 90s, but that specific win for him in that team.
It was just his passion, just his love for the game. Making it that far and win the whole thing.
Some would say stubbornness.
Either or.
Going back to The Last Dance, and just speaking of his competitive nature, the fact that when he was filming Space Jam, he had the studio build him a full court in a tented building, and he would fly all these all-star players from across this country, and they'd play pickup games.
Oh, wow.
And he would they're like, oh, it's a pickup game. And Jordan's like, no, it is not just a pickup game.
Yeah, his pickup game is like a tournament.
His pickup game is out for blood.
That's putting it nicely.
But so those pickup games are what led to the Bulls signing Rodman. So if he doesn't film Space Jam, those pickup games don't happen, and Rodman doesn't join the Bulls.
It's amazing how the dominoes fall.
Right?
Amazing how that falls into place.
So what's your first one, David?
Mine is the 2001 Colorado Avalanche. And the reason I picked this one is, yes, for those of you who probably do your research in the background here, the Flyers did make the playoffs. They got knocked out. But also at that time, I was
story of your Flyers fandom.
Shocking, right? Like, that's a shocker. Oh, they're out. Okay. Whatever. Next. But at that time, the Colorado Avalanche, their minor league team was the Hershey Bears. So, that's another reason why I followed Colorado more than what I normally would have, was because of the Hershey Bears, being that they were their pro team, that they were their affiliates.
The equivalent for me would be, I'm a Phillies fan, but I care about the Senators, pardon me, even though they're not a Phillies affiliate.
So, but being that they were with Hershey, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll root for them just because they were that affiliate. And also following one of my favorite players, Ray Bork, who was who was a Boston Bruin for, I want to say, 20 years, give or take. I want to say 21. And then he got traded to Colorado to win that Stanley Cup that he could not win. And then that year, fun fact, that year I was almost at the game. Patrick Waugh broke the goaltending record in Washington.
Oh crap!
I could have went, but it was a school night, and at the time,
at the time you were a junior.
I think so. No,
you were a senior.
Yeah,
because I would have been a sophomore.
Yeah. So it's like, I pleaded, but yeah, I mean, Colorado that year had everything going for them. With Waugh getting the record, All-Star game being held in Colorado. I think it was like 5 or 6 of Colorado's players made the All-Star team. And with Ray Bourque trying to get that Stanley Cup, they did something called Mission 16W.
Okay.
Which is basically you need 16 wins to win the Stanley Cup. And the fact that they made all this up for them, trying to get that momentum, get that push for them. And because I know they brought in another big defenseman, Rob Blake. When he played for the Kings, they brought him into Colorado. Oh, that's an old name. But when that game went to Game 7, I was like, because you know yourself, anytime a game goes to Game 7, you're on
pins and needles,
and that's putting it lightly. And the fact when they won it, I was watching a documentary of that. He tried to go to the bench to get air because he was that winded. They kept pushing him off. They wanted him out there for the final horn. Yeah, they just kept pushing him there every time he tried to come to the bench. But when he finally won, that was, that Colorado team really hovered around him to bring that home. And Joe Sakic didn't even lift the cup right, when he was presented it. He turned around and handed it right to Bourque, which I thought that was a classy move on his part.
So, little sidebar here. Speaking of your senior year / my sophomore year.
Uh-oh. I'm scared.
So little insight into how we met. I believe I was in Mrs. Rulin's typing class. No, I was in Woodford's accounting class. And we were working on our final project because it was late in the school year. And all of a sudden, outside of the room, you hear a clang, a thud, and oh crap. Except it was not crap. Pop outside and I see a former mutual friend of ours with a gash in his head.
It wasn't a gash.
He had
just
blood.
An indentation.
There was blood.
It was not that bad.
I would not misremember this.
It was not that bad.
Because this was the beginning of what led to where we are now.
It wasn't that bad. You didn't pass out, at least.
I don't know what led to it, but you were there. And so is that person.
Yeah, I forget what led to that too, but yeah, no, I remember that. I just don't remember what led to it. But it wasn't that bad. I mean, just because he had to put makeup on doesn't mean anything.
Did he really have to put makeup on? I don't remember that.
I think they had school pictures the next day or two, in the next day or two.
Oh, it was his picture, his senior picture for the yearbook, wasn't it?
I think so.
Because they took those at the end of their junior year, because I had to do mine in 2002 for the 2003 yearbook.
My timing was perfect.
Now I got to search out that yearbook out of my basement or attic and find the picture of him and see if I can notice the cover up.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And then fast forward about a year later, we really became friends over him and his cousin as 18-year-olds dressed up as two ducks performing the Six Little Ducks for the senior talent show.
I'm surprised we didn't get kicked out of that.
And now here we are.
I'm still shocked we didn't get kicked out. I'm still shocked.
There is a mom from graduation who
That's that on video.
has us making fun of that on video.
Yeah. Some of the stuff we said was pretty cringy.
Yeah, when it didn't age, I don't think any of it aged well.
No.
You know, that poor family never watched that video after one viewing because of us. We completely ruined their kids' graduation video. But you know what? She was laughing, so she's half at fault because she laughed at our shenanigans.
She kept laughing, so we kept going. But yeah, that was yeah. And look where we're at now.
Look where we're at now.
God help us.
So everyone just got a little education into how we met.
Over an injury.
over an injury in a locker.
And it wasn't even us getting injured.
Nope.
That was the best part.
Oh man.
Good times.
That was the same year, before we continue, that I was in the school musical with him. And contrary to what he says, because he anytime there's a great story about him, he denies whatever happens is actually happening. He's like the original fake news guy. We were doing Damn Yankees, and there was a song that takes place in the locker room where his character, because he was built like a baseball manager, the manager faints, and two of the guys are supposed to catch him. Lemon was one of the guys, right? And they didn't catch him on the final night. So he does his feint, total trust fall, thud.
Well, it made it look real.
I'd never heard an audience gasp at the same time before until that night.
There was yeah.
They stopped playing the music. It was tremendous. I have it on VHS. I'll have to break it out someday.
I was gonna say, get that digitalized.
All right, I'm done deviating.
Are we ever done?
No.
Exactly. There's always something.
Well, that's what the third period's for.
Oh yeah, there's always something for us.
Look, inside baseball, it's 12:15. It is now Saturday. So
Very officially Saturday. Oh, so your second pick.
the 08 Phillies.
Go figure.
Like, I wasn't going to say this. Come on now.
Yeah, I figured you would. I figured they were going to be in there. Game
3, we celebrated my 24th birthday.
Yes, we did.
At Aruga's.
Yes, we did. Yeah, because I remember, we were sitting there watching the game. We're like, hey, game, now. Can you please put it up on the TV, please?
Remember there were people who got pissed because she turned some of the TVs off of college football so we could have the World Series on? God forbid. We want to watch the World freaking Series.
Yeah, I'd rather watch the World Series than college football just because it's the World Series.
Right.
I mean, you're watching a championship series here.
Yeah,
I remember that.
As much as I love the 93 team, and the 93 team, I love that team. That's the team Kruk was on. Those guys they looked like bums, but they were a great team. Everything about the 08 team was perfect. They had it was their best lineup probably since 80. And obviously I wasn't around for 80. I've watched it, but I wasn't there for it. Give me another 4 years. But that lineup, I mean, a lot of those guys came from the minors together. I always go back to, they didn't need 4 aces to win a World Series. They needed a team that gelled together. Rollins came up from the minor leagues, Howard minor leagues, Hamels minor leagues, Utley minor leagues. Victorino played in the minors for the Phils. Like, these guys came up together and they grew together. And you can't tell me that it doesn't play a role in why they won that World Series. And then, I mean, that last image of when freaking Lidge gets that last out,
Yep.
drops to his knees, and Truth's just booking over to him, and everyone dives on them. Like, I cried. I'm not gonna lie about it. I cried.
I still love when Howard came in and just plowed. He's just like, boom, and everybody just like timber.
It was such a magical season, and I legit, like, I can remember telling Jamie when the season began, they're gonna go all the way and win it this year. I knew as soon as spring training was over, they were gonna win the World Series that year, and I haven't felt that way about a team since.
And what's funny is, though, everybody says that right at that time too. They do. Everybody says it, but you were right.
I've never said it. I don't think I've said it since. I think I've said they could win the East. I think I've said they could win the wild card in the last few years,
but never the whole thing.
And I knew in 2009, even if they made it, they weren't going to win it because they weren't the same team.
No, but I still say, though, the Harry Kalas call.
Swing and a miss, strike them out. The Philadelphia Phillies are World Series champions. That was my ringtone for like 5 years. That was
the perfect. God rest his soul. That was the perfect call.
When I go back and watch it on DVD, because I'm a caveman, I watch it with Harry calling the game. I don't watch it with Joe Buck. Why would
you have to? I have to watch it with Harry. You have to.
That was my text message ringtone, because my ringtone is always the Magnum PI theme.
Well, of course, yeah, that's typical.
That's probably for as long as I've had cell phones. It's been the Magnum PI theme.
You could customize your ringtones on cell phones.
I'm a big Magnum PI fan. I'm sorry. Might have dressed up as Magnum for a few Halloweens.
That's not a shocker. We gotta get a picture of that one. We can put that one up.
I don't think there's any pictures, because that was the last time I did it was like 2007. But there are pictures of Logan dressed as Magnum PI for Halloween last year.
Oh, you're mini me.
We got him a bank. We got him a bank with a Magnum style mustache.
Jeez.
I kid you not.
Nice.
So what's your number 2, David?
Mine is the New York Giants of 2007.
Well, you've mentioned this team a few times on the show, so.
And the reason why I picked this one is because of what they did and what nobody expected them to do. They went on to the Super Bowl to play against the New England Patriots, who were looking to have that perfect season. Because that was the year that the Patriots, everything went right for them. Perfect season was on the line right there.
Right.
And the Giants came in and spoiled it. I was loving it.
And, I mean, the cool thing about that team, that was Strahan's final season. So he went out
on a high
with
note.
a championship.
And to do it against the Patriots, who were looking for that perfect season, to kind of spoil that, I mean, I can only imagine how that Giants team felt knowing they did that. They spoiled a perfect season.
And, like, going back to the whole, like, how many people even remember Strahan as a football player? Because he's a personality on TV shows, you know?
So you can't say sports analyst because he's more than that now. He's everywhere.
I mean, he does Fox NFL. He does Good Morning America. He does the $100,000 pyramid. The dude's everywhere. But it began with football, and it ended with his football career. Ended with him on that Giants team getting that Lombardi Trophy. What a heck of a way to go out for a guy who he had a great career.
He did. I mean, it's just one of those things to where if you can go out on top, why not? I mean, that's what Ray Bork did. As soon as he won the cup, he retired, right after that. So when you can go out in a blaze of glory, why not? But yeah, that's why I picked that Giants that year, just because they stopped the Patriots from having that perfect season. They stopped them all together. It was great.
Good way to stick it to Bill Belichick.
Well, how many like controversies has he been a part of? Spygate, Inflategate, what other gate
come
there
out
is.
looking good now that he left? Brady.
Yeah. He leaves Tampa. He goes win a Super Bowl. Goes to Tampa. Leaves. I'm sorry. He left New England. Goes to Tampa. Wins a Super Bowl. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, really. But yeah, that's why I picked that team. So. But yeah, so that was a good third period to have there on that one. So that note, that's the end of it.
I like that we covered all four of the big sports.
Yeah, how often do we do that?
Right. So some quick plugs here, get them out of the way. Friend of the show, Adam Van, and his co-host Joe Sposto host At Odds with Wrestling. Find them wherever you get podcasts. Join them weekly for some fun wrestling talk, lots of information. I love the homework segments. You can catch me every month with my co-host Tori on the Baseball Philly Together the Philly Baseball Together podcast. That is under the Baseball Together podcast network. Once a month, you can listen to us talk about the Phils and all kinds of other Philly-related topics. Other than that, thank you for joining us for episode 22 of the Not Another Sports podcast. You can find us all over the place online. We're all over social media. You can find us on Facebook.com/Not Another Sports Pod, Twitter at Not Another Sport 1, Instagram at NAS Pod 20, TikTok NAS Pod 20. Those are all of our social media handles. Like, comment, reach out, message us. We'll talk to you, the listener. We'll interact with you guys. That's what we have social media for. We're on YouTube. If you want to watch us, every episode is up on YouTube right now. Go back, take a look. If there's something you want to check out, we try to include pictures and clips every now and then to drive home to you, the listener or the viewer, what we're talking about. Other than that, the Non-Linear Sports Podcast is available for streaming or download at Anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do not forget to subscribe, rate, and review.
I think you need to breathe after all that.
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, you know what? We're everywhere, man. And amazingly, all the ones I list are the ones where people listen. So I got to list them,
Oh, yeah.
So with that, I'm Jason.
I'm David.
We'll talk with you next time.
Have a good one.